Newbie gains, call it like, whatever you want, newbie gains, beginner gains, but it's that stage in your lifting career, at the early stages of a lifting career, where you'll gain so much more muscle, right? If you get the things right. People think maybe you're in some kind of, PEDs or something like that. And this is the stage where it determines the rest of a lifting career, because you'll see many of the people who, joined the gym with you, some of them are not, going to the gym with you right now. Why is that the case right now? And it happened with me because I joined the gym, and I've been lifting for almost 5 years now. But the people who joined the gym with me are still nowhere to be seen right now, because they got those few things which I was fortunate enough to get those things right, which I'm going to tell you in this video exactly how to get the most amount of newbie gains. I mean, this is the phase you really don't want to miss out, because it is going to determine your motivation throughout the rest of your life. I mean, depending upon how you approach it, right? So if you get this phase right, it's going to determine your motivation throughout the entire fitness journey that you're going to have, that you're looking forward in the future, right? So some of the things I got right. As I said, I was fortunate enough to have a good mentor, hold my hand through the lifting career, which that's why I really emphasize on this coaching offer, which is you really do need a, good coach, so that, he or she can, literally hold your hands and tell you basically what are the mistakes he or she made, so that, you can avoid it and make the most amount of your time. So here we go. Newbie gains is something you should be looking forward to having between 1 or 2 years, right? 1 or 2 years within, I mean, the first 1 or 2 years of your lifting career is where you would get the newbie gains. And newbie gains basically means is that you're getting like an exponential muscle growth compared to the effort that you're putting in, right? So how to get the most amount of newbie gains, right? Here's the thing. Point number one is just focus on lifting for a while, right? Like for a while, I mean, just go to the gym. I mean, do calisthenics if you're into that. Just focus on one form of physical activity for a while, right? Like at least 6 to 1 year. I mean, sorry, 6 months to 1 year, right? And the reason being is your body is getting accustomed to the stress, the stimulus, the pressure that you're, putting it through, and the food intake that you are, giving your body to. So these are all the changes that your body is getting accustomed, right? So if you're also, putting in maybe cardio, maybe running, maybe boxing, maybe swimming, and all of these other forms of physical activity, then the stress is more, and the calories that you will be intake, that you will be intaking is divided into all of these, other things that it has to work on. If you were just focusing on lifting, right, then it wouldn't have been the case, because if you were just lifting, going to the gym, maybe 6 or 5 times a week, and you're just focusing on lifting, and then you're coming home, you're eating properly, you're sleeping properly, then it would be like a game changer for you, and you would see amazing results, because all of this recovery, all of this food, all of the nutrients, all of the stuff that you do for recovery would all go to recovering your muscle, right? Whereas if you were to do all of this other thing, like running, sprinting, cycling, all of that stuff, your fatigue would be too much for it to basically get recovered as a beginner, right? So this is the key takeaway from this point. Just focus on lifting or calisthenics, whatever you into. Just focus on one form of physical activity for a while, at least 6 months to 1 year, or even more than that. Just focus on that. If you do that, you will see a significant growth in your muscle, right? Because, like I said, your recovery is on point at this point. Point number two that I want to talk about is basically you must be eating enough calories, right? And let's be honest, this is okay. I'm going to make a vague statement, right? I'm going to make a vague statement. It is really a vague statement. Then I'm going to add details into that video as we move forward. Calories is the number one thing that you need for growth, right? Like, let me repeat it. Calories is the number one thing that you need for growth, right? It's a very vague statement, right? Now let me add some details into it. Calories. Now, what makes a hell and heaven difference is where are you getting those calories from, right? So here's the tip. I'm going to get, straight into the tip, which is you need to get into a healthy body fat percentage where you're not feeling too much, exhausted because you're too much lean, and you're also not feeling too much sluggish. You're not feeling too much slow because you're too much fat, right? So get in between like a healthy bulking body fat percentage where you're feeling strong as an ox. You feel good, throughout the day, where you're lean enough to see some bicep veins, but also not lean enough to see those six pack, abs, and then having those chest striations, those chest veins, those shoulder veins, all of that stuff, right? So get into healthy body fat percentage where you could feel strong as an ox in the gym. You could gain muscle. You could do progressive overload as much as you want, and as progressively, as consistently as you want. But then again, you're not six pack abs, model looking physique where you're exhausted all the time. You don't have energy all the time. You're hungry all the time. Yeah, all of that stuff. And but then again, it's also really bad for you to be fat all the time. Fat and feeling sluggish all the time. You're feeling no energy, right? Or maybe you are too fat to move a muscle. You're too fat to basically go to the gym, right? That's also the bad case. So you have to figure out the right body fat percentage for yourself, which, by the way, I'm going to make a video on it, and it's going to come really recently, just after I publish this video. So eat enough calories. Don't focus too much on getting lean. Don't focus too much on dirty bulking. Focus on eating clean calories, right? That's where you gain muscle and a little bit of fat from the good fats that you're taking in from egg yolks, from butter, from ghee, from peanut butter, all of that stuff, like all of the good fats, all of the good cholesterol that I preach to to ingest in your body, right? So yeah, eat enough calories and you will see significant increase in your muscle growth. Point number 3 is that don't chase PRs very often, right? I'm going to give a scientific explanation so that you guys have the better understanding, which is, if you are someone who's looking to compete in powerlifting, go for it. No problem with that. This video is not for you. This video is for someone who's looking to build as much muscle as possible in the first 1 to 2 years of their lifting career. If you're someone who is looking forward to maybe compete in a powerlifting meet, want to be a powerlifter, right? This video is not for you. So if you're someone who is looking to build muscle as fast as possible, don't chase numbers all the time, right? Don't hit PRs all the time. Reason being is that the aim of a power lifter is to basically reduce the range of motion as much as possible from point A to point B, right? That's why you see all of those, like ridiculous look, like those cringy arches that, like their back is literally like this, right? Those cringe arches that people do while bench pressing. Why is that? Because they are trying to reduce the range of motion, because all that counts is basically like their bar going like this, touching the chest and then going up. All that counts. It doesn't matter, how much the range of motion is, right? Like the distance. So, and I've preached in this, like this channel for, time after time, which is range of motion, intensity, focusing on the eccentric, portion of the muscle is really important, right? So don't chase number, because if you're chasing numbers, if you're chasing, PRs every now and then, you would not be able to basically focus on the other things that I, stress upon on this video, on this channel, which is intensity, range of motion. Because let's be honest, if you're hitting PRs every now and then, your focus would be on, how do I get this, weight up? How do I, bench this? How do I squat this, right? Your focus isn't going to be like, okay, let me pause for 1 second at the eccentric motion and then, let me have a good squeeze at the top, right? So these are the things your focus should be on. Your focus shouldn't be on hitting, PRs every now and then, right? And sure, every once in a long while, based on your program, if you have written in your program that hit PR, today, hit it. But it shouldn't be, very often. Maybe, twice. Maybe once every 2 months, something like that. Or once every 3 months, after you have been progressively overloading your weight with proper technique, with proper form, with proper sets, with proper rep ranges, and then you have a PR day. I'm pretty sure you will gain a significant amount of weight in the amount of weight that you're pushing, and you'll also gain muscle as you move forward with a particular program that you have in mind. Simple things, let me summarize it, which is focus on bodybuilding, focus on calisthenics, whichever one physical activity that you think you should be dedicating your life to. Just focus on that for 1 or 2 years, make the most amount of it. Point number 2 is basically eat enough calories. Don't be one of those guys who start cutting, who starts, chasing six-pack abs, beginning of the gym, lifting career. So yeah, eat enough calories, be in a caloric surplus a little bit, and yeah, you'll be good to go. And the last point is basically don't chase PRs very often, because if you do, then you would be missing out on all of those other important things like intensity, range of motion, focusing on the eccentric portion of the exercises, all of that stuff. Yeah, peace.